Fay Calderone, the Chair of Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Council from Hall and Willcox. So give her a round of applause.
Thank God I'm live, because how does a lawyer follow that? How is that fair? I'm sorry. And look at the first slide. It is employer risk from toxic behaviour, the shadow pandemic and the great exhaustion. It's very positive coming out of the lawyer today, isn't it? It has been a long and... What are the words? Are there words to describe the journey that we've had in the last 2 years? I mean, it has been extraordinary since I've been on this stage at the ICC. I must say it wasn't as cool as this stage today, but it has been an extraordinary journey. And people are tired. They are physically and mentally exhausted. I would even say, based on the things that I'm getting on my desk as an employment lawyer, which is my day job, they are broken. And unfortunately, we see the worst of it. Today is all about the best of it, but we see the worst of it. And it's really important that we start at the front end. And it's really important that we have the initiatives like we have today, and we focus on culture first and foremost, so that you don't end up working with me in my day job as opposed to my D&I chair role, which is my love job. So it all starts with culture. And the culture are the patterns and the behaviour that we accept and the values that we live by each and every day. And when they are wrong, when they are dysfunctional, when they are plagued by inappropriate workplace behaviours, that's when we end up with the legal claims and the problems that we end up having in the workplace. So first and foremost, we need to address toxic workplace behaviours and dysfunction at work. I found this graph on Forbes magazine, actually, and they talked about all different types of cultures that lead to toxic workplace behaviours. And it really was a bit of an aha moment for me, because I looked at them, and we won't, of course, go through all of them today, but I could pick each of those boxes and tell you how they would manifest in a claim sitting on my desk. The hustle culture, the culture where overworked or being a workaholic is glamorised. The culture where it's an eat what you kill environment, it's dog eat dog world. In the hustle culture, do you want to hazard a guess in terms of what types of claims I see on my desk? Workers' compensation claims, work health and safety claims, burnout, stress. The clique culture, where people are excluded. It's like the opposite of an inclusive workplace culture. People are in cliques. They are not brought in to the club, and effectively what we see arising from those is bullying claims, discrimination claims. And finally, the bro culture, the misogynistic culture, the culture where the white male is promoted and decision-making is limited to those classes of people. Of course, the types of claims we see arising from that are sexual harassment claims. We see discrimination claims. This article was also came across in a course that I was doing at Stanford University, and sociologist Marianne Cooper actually spoke about the very things that epitomise or that are the precursors to the claims I end up seeing on my desk when it comes to sexual harassment. The environments that manifest the sexual harassment claims, the male-dominated environments, the hierarchical environments. We know that sexual harassment is as much about power as it is about anything else. We know that when there are hierarchical environments, people can't speak up about inappropriate behaviour. We know that these behaviours and these people that engage in these behaviours are shielded, and the companies are forgiving of bad behaviour, particularly where they are where they are engaged in by our exceptional performers who we forgive. The key indicators that an organisation is forgiving of bad behaviour, and I encourage you to think about this and take it back to your organisation today in terms of the bad stuff with all the good stuff. Do your managers prevent sexual harassment by talking about company policies and modelling appropriate workplace behaviour? Do managers ensure that harassment is promptly investigated and punished, regardless of who it's engaged by? Where the alleged perpetrator is a top performer, do the same rules apply? The cost of a toxic workplace are the things that I'm sure many of you know about. It's the revolving door. We are talking about the great resignation. We are talking about the great exhaustion. COVID-19 has manifested this. But if you have a good culture, sure, there are people that are moving on. We've had 2 years where people didn't move on. There is going to be some movement in the market. But if you have the right culture, if you've got a culture where people can stay true and they can bring their whole selves to work and they feel supported and they feel protected, then you're not likely to have the mass exodus that many organisations are seeing at the moment. What we do know, and this isn't a pandemic statistic, is that 46% of people would rather leave a workplace than address a workplace relationship issue. 48% avoid the problem with things like absenteeism. We say you lose the best of them and you disengage the rest of them. It really matters what your leaders do. The culture of your organisation, unfortunately, is not going to be shaped by the booths that you have or the awards that you win or the things that you promote or the press releases that you put out. It's going to be shaped by the worst behaviour your leaders are willing to tolerate. The great exhaustion has manifested in many things, both for individuals in terms of personal consequences. We know we have physical and mental manifestations of stress, but they are then culminating in bigger issues for organisations. We are seeing burnout. We are seeing lack of job satisfaction. We are seeing lack of problems with morale, with cohesion, with workplace cultures, which are manifesting in absenteeism and turnover. These things impact on the bottom line. These things impact on performance. So if you need to sell it beyond this is just the right thing to do and it's actually nice to create a nice place to work, take these slides away and show them to your boss, because they're the things that you're talking the language they will understand. 8 out of 10 employees in Australia and New Zealand indicated that experienced burnout at least once in the past year. 50% of respondents said that overwork was the key contributing factor to burnout. I'd say the other 50% probably could attribute a lot of it to homeschooling. I don't know, as a mum, I reckon homeschooling's got a lot to answer for. And then isolation, of course, for the people that didn't have the kids at home. 1 in 3 people cite not being able to disconnect from work as being a real problem, and we will talk about this problem at the panel at 12 o'clock in terms of our flexible working. Risk factors, I know a lot of you know about, but dysfunctional workplace cultures is one of the key risk factors, as is a lot of the things that you manage in terms of heavy workloads, that delineation between work and home, and little or no control over the work that people perform. This is a little mind map I put together when I was on leave a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, which says a lot about the things that are going on in my head, but the things down the bottom are the cases that come and hit my desk. The second, moving from the bottom up, the second line is the turnover and the organisational issues that we discussed today. We then have the law and the compliance framework, and at the top is what this conference is all about. It's about purpose, it's about values, it's about moving beyond compliance, it's about moving beyond the things we have to do and what we must do, to creating diverse and inclusive environments and to creating engagement and well-being. So how do we do it? I still say as a lawyer we need to start with a culture of compliance. Of course we have to have our policies and procedures, and we need to promulgate them and make sure people know about them and workers know how to speak up and when to speak up, and that bystanders know that they should act. But we need to consistently and indiscriminately enforce those policies. To quote Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, we do not tolerate brilliant jerks. Frankly, we don't tolerate any jerks at all. And he says the cost of teamwork is too high, but I'd say based on today's conversation that there's a lot more that you're risking than teamwork. I put out a call out last year to leaders to go online and to say not on my watch, to not tolerate sexual harassment undertaken by anyone at any time. It's a pledge that you can all take as workers, as individuals. It's the standard you walk past, and it's a pledge that you can take about being an active bystander. As leaders, it's a pledge that you take to not tolerate inappropriate workplace behaviour under any circumstances. Mental health support is obviously fundamental, and there are many people here today that can talk to you about many initiatives and many things that you can do. They're better trained than I am and better resourced than I am, but these things are the fundamentals. You are building the house of your organisation, that builds your organisation. The mental health and wellbeing is the bricks and mortar that your organisation is built on, and when that crumbles, everything crumbles. #FlexWork New Normal, I was advocating for this many, many years ago, many years before the pandemic, which created a burning platform for change. It's not the topic of today's conversation, but we know that flexible work is the structural foundation for healthy and inclusive workplaces. It removes barriers and creates inclusion and creates organisations and a society where people can progress regardless of their carers' responsibilities, regardless of their physical health and mental well-being that they need to manage also. So we really do need to talk more about that and how we ensure that is a safe environment at our 12 o'clock panel. So please go away and create inclusive workplace cultures. You know how to do it. We're learning how to do it today because they will ensure the well-being of your people. They will ensure that they can show up to work and stay true. But you start with your baseline compliance. We're moving beyond compliance today to what we call bliss. Leaders don't tolerate toxic behaviour. We have inclusive workplaces and a values-driven culture, and we solidify our purpose. Because our why we get up in the morning, why we show up to work, that's our everything. Thank you, everyone.